Desire and Dialogue. My name is Mihwa. I'm a steamy historical romance author, and I am so honored to have with us, drumroll, Quinn! Bring it down a notch. Hi, Ella. Thank you for joining. Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us from south of France.
The Côte d'Azur.
During your sailing. So
yeah.
I am thrilled to have you with us and chat with you about a whole bunch of stuff related to writing. Just before we started recording, you were telling me that you were in the military twice. Right?
Oh, well, it was in the 74 because I couldn't think of anything I wanted to do. I'd been in university and they wouldn't let me study what I wanted to study because I was a girl. I decided I dropped out and I attended bar and I joined a rock band briefly, and then I decided the military had a commercial on the mind that says join the army, see the world, and so I said okay, that sounds good to me, because I'd already lived in North Africa, in Spain, Canada twice, so I decided why not. And so I joined the Army, and my first duty assignment was 3rd Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group. That's a Green Beret battalion. And I was the first female ever assigned to a Green Beret battalion.
Wow.
And then
you were a pioneer.
And after my tour with them, I was stationed on Guam, and I was at a special weapons unit, which is nuclear weapons. And so what we used to do is set up the shape charges to explode them if the island was ever invaded, and they couldn't get them out in time. So after that, I went to Germany. Then once that tour was done, I had been briefly married before, and I was pregnant and back to the States, and then got out. When I was 7 months pregnant, went back to university. And then, like I said, marriage was very short. And so after I'd kicked him out and hadn't dated anyone for a year, friends of ours got together and got me down to Fort Bragg and introduced me to my husband. And that was 42 years ago.
Wow.
So it's stuck.
Oh, wow. Okay, so first of all, I feel like an underachiever. And secondly, that's amazing. What a life you have lived and continue to live. I mean, you just take life by the balls and go with it, don't you?
You only live once. You've got to have fun.
Has it been fun? I mean, it sounds really tough being in the military and making all those changes.
I mean, there have been zigs and zags. So, for example, I had a master's degree in international politics, and I was specializing in Soviet insurgency into third world countries. We found out the Soviet Union was at a 10% negative growth rate, and I said, okay, this country is going to implode. So I zagged and went to law school instead of doing a PhD. Then I went back in the Army, and then I wasn't getting the jobs I wanted. And so I got out and went into private practice. And when I was 58, I started writing romance.
So, okay. All right. Well, I think that's it for the interview. Doesn't get much better than that. All right. So what kind of law did you practice?
I was the community prosecutor, and I was the Special Forces trial counsel. That means the command's legal advisor and their operational law attorney.
Okay. So
and then when I got out, I was a defense attorney, and so I was a prosecutor. And then when I got out, I was a defense attorney, and I practiced family law.
Oh, so what made you switch over to defense?
Because I got out of the Army. And you can't be a prosecutor in the Army if you're not in the Army anymore.
Oh, okay. What made you go back to the Army after you graduated from university?
From law school? It was what I wanted to do. And it was easy with my husband being in the Army because he was a Green Beret.
Oh, I see.
So that made a lot more sense than me trying to set up shop someplace else,
And what did you want to study originally that they didn't let you because you were a girl?
Oh, well, this was 71. And so I was interested in studying political science, and they said, oh, no, there's no jobs for you because you're a girl.
71.
71, yeah.
It is a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's not 1800s, so it's still surprising to me.
So things didn't start changing until later on in the 70s when they passed, So, and I've always kind of known that you have to keep fighting for your rights, and look where we are now.
Right.
All the stuff that I thought was settled isn't. And now we have to go back and do it again.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It's very tragic.
So you're probably a CIA using the author thing as a cover. That's what your life sounds like it's headed. It's in that going in that direction.
I used to want to be in the CIA. Yeah, but it never.
What stopped you?
Yeah, I kind of manage things the wrong way around. Once you have a child, it's a lot harder.
Oh yeah, you can't disappear and risk your life, or oh shucks.
So if I would have stayed in school in the beginning, it would have been different. But I wasn't feeling at all challenged. My last semester, I didn't buy any books to see if I could do it, and I did. So after that, I said, okay, I need to do something else for a while. I'll go back to. I always knew I'd go back, but it was just a matter of doing something else until things changed. So I didn't go to law school until the late '80s. I graduated in 92.
So how old were you around approximately?
I was
in
39. So I've got two
Wow.
postgraduate degrees.
Okay.
And that's pretty common for historical authors. Most historical authors
really?
have at least one, if not two, postgraduate degrees.
So I'm the minority then. Thank you
Are you-
for that, Ella. Thank
Sorry?
you. I only have one bachelor's, half a postgraduate. So
Well,
whatever.
but at least you have your bachelor's and half a master's, you know.
So what made you decide to write?
I
at
didn't.
58?
We had been planning. I mean, when we were dating, we were talking about retiring on a sailboat, and so I thought we were about 5 years out. I said, "Oh, I've been reading some books about people getting ready to go sailing." I said, "Oh, I'll just write about our 5-year journey to buying a sailboat." But I found out I can't write about anything about my life at all. Nothing. So all of a sudden, I started getting a video playing in my head of a very angry Regency lady. Now, the books I've always read have either been historical, mostly romance, okay, and spy stuff, okay, or Bernard Cornwell, so military stuff. So talk about dichotomies. And so this is what I started to do. So I said, okay, well, let me write this down. So I wrote it down and I showed it to some friends. I was living in the Virgin Islands then. And they said, oh, that sounds pretty good. So my husband came down because he was in Virginia. And I said, I think I'm going to write a Regency romance. He said, oh, you could do that. So I did. I sat down and 100,000 words later and a month later, I had a full manuscript. So then I had to figure out what to do with it. And that just was 8 months later, I had my first agent, who was Elizabeth Pomada, who's unfortunately now died. And then 8 months after that, I had my first 3-book contract. So a friend of mine, Barbara Rogan, said, it'll take 5 years to get published. And I said, I'm 58.
I
want to be published. I don't have 5 years. I want to be published by the time I'm 60. And a month before I turned 60, The Seduction of Lady Phoebe came out. Really quick journey.
Yeah, you live your life kind of fast forwarding 3 times the speed as the rest of us.
I'm very goal oriented. So if I want to do something, I just figure out a way to do it.
And is your husband the same way, or do you scare him?
I don't scare him. He says he's gratification driven.
I think that's a good way to live. Living for pleasure.
No, we're both A-type personalities that were in the Army. So, you can imagine that things kind of get a little hectic around.
And hand-to-hand combat instead of arguments.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you, and then you actually mean it.
Yeah.
So you've been writing since 2013, or you've published your first book in 2013.
The first book was 2013, yeah.
And you've written, well, you have about 31 books listed on the website. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I never
31.
keep count.
Yeah, well, I do, and I will. It's been 4 months, Ella. Where's your new book?
Oh, I just had one come out.
Oh, so 32.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
so
GROOM list.
one in less than 4 months.
And the next one comes out in December.
Okay, and is it a Christmas story?
No, not that one. But I am doing a Christmas story for a box set. Except that I've got almost all of it written, and I forgot I was supposed to put Christmas in it, so I have to go back and tweak it. That's not hard to do. It's just a matter of moving the calendar a little bit and adding, you know, Christmassy stuff. So, and you don't have a lot of Christmassy stuff during the Regency.
Yeah.
So
but people still want to see it.
It's the Trevors. So if you've ever read any of those, we're all sneaking around the bad duke's back and getting married to the people we want to get married to. I bring back Meg and Damon. She was Meg Featherton, and he was the Marquise of Hawksworth, and so they got married in Miss Featherton's Christmas Prince. My hero decides he wants his family there, which complicates everything. So she's into all these mechanisms, and my hero and my heroine are falling in love, trying to help.
Yeah.
With them, and of course it's a novella, and they've got a short timeline to get married without the Duke finding out.
Yeah.
So she actually proposes to him, and because he says he wants his wife to love him, and she said, "Well, I think I can love you. Would you marry me?"
Yeah.
With the promise that I could probably love you.
Yeah. Probably.
I know.
Okay, that's good enough.
And he said, "Are you proposing to me?" And she said, "I suppose I am."
Well, yeah. That is completely unconventional, isn't it? I mean, even now, it's pretty unconventional for the woman to propose.
Yeah. But she is. She's either going to be a baroness in her own right, or a baronetess in her own. Okay. So all the property goes to her. It will never go to him. That's going to be in the settlement agreements, and which is So we're doing all this kind of stuff. So she's used to taking charge.
Good for her. So does it have a title?
Not yet.
Oh, what's the book that just came out?
The GROOM list.
And what is the premise of that?
This is a Worthington book. It's the last book of the twins and Madeline. That people have met when they were 12. They're now 18. And she meets this guy. One of the younger sisters, Mary, takes him aside and and says, we don't like this other guy that's interested, she's interested in, he's interested in her. We don't trust him at all. And if you want my help, I can give it to you. So he talks about something else, and she looks at him finally and says, do you want my help or not? Because if you do, be quiet and listen.
Yeah.
So all the female family are kind of like that.
Yeah, they're you.
Yeah, and I guess in many ways they're like how I wish I could have grown up. You know, instead of being told ladies don't do this and ladies don't do that and you can't do this and you can't do that, the kind of thing. They still have to abide by society's rules, but they have support from their family. Marry who they want to marry as long as they're eligible. So we still abide by all the Regency rules.
And how steamy is it?
My 18-year-olds, when I'm dealing with 18-year-olds, it's really not very steamy.
Yeah,
I just can't. You know. Now. The marriage game books are all very steamy except for one, and that's a Christmas book, and I only had 40,000 words, and we were at a house party with a bunch of family, and I couldn't figure out a way for in the middle of winter for them to get together without someone finding out. Okay, which you didn't want.
Yeah.
And so that's the only one that doesn't have a love scene in it. All the others are a little steamy. The Worthingtons are a little steamy. They have at least one love scene. But they're always betrothed. It's always after they're betrothed.
All right, Groom's List, guys. Buy Groom's List. Check out Ella's profile. She's on Instagram and she has a website. Is it ellaquinn.com or
ellaquinnauthor.com? All of my social media is all ellaquinnauthor.com. I play with the idea of TikTok, but I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it reaches younger audience, younger readers.
Yeah, and you know, you kind of want to reach all age groups.
So buy the Groom's List, follow Ella, and also if you want sexy, buy the Worthington series, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you always write steamy, or is that something you ventured into later on?
No, my first books were very steamy. It wasn't until I got to 18-year-olds. Now, the Groom's List is steamier because I'm dealing with a woman in her 20s, you know? So, not an experienced woman, she was very innocent, but the thing is I could take it faster and farther.
Right.
And more, okay, because she was, number one, in charge of her own household. She inherited a house from her grandmother and that kind of thing. So she didn't have the constraints, and they're in the country during this, so she didn't have the constraints of being in London during the season, you know, living with your family. When you've got to be chaperoned everywhere and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, you could hide in a lot of different places behind the tree.
Right, as long as your nieces and nephews don't find you.
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, because I've got kids, right, who are entering the 7-8-year-old range, right, where they're able to go off kind of on their own when they're in the country. And so you have some pretty funny scenes with the kids almost catching them when they're in a glade and by a stream because they're trying to sail paper boats. You know?
So how do people around you react to you writing steamy scenes when you first started?
My mother-in-law loved it. She thought it was great. All her friends read my books. They think it's great.
Oh, awesome.
Well, one of them said if she'd known she's a widow. I don't know if she died now.
Who?
Was it Irma Lee?
Irma passed.
Yeah. My mother-in-law just passed last year. And
I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's been hard for everybody. She was our last parent. We are now all officially orphans. So, but yeah, her husband. She was a widow, and she said, after reading your books, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have been a lot harder on my husband.
So how do you feel knowing that they masturbate to your book?
I don't know. I don't know anyone who does, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy.
Does your husband read your books?
No.
So do you feel like historical romance is trending towards steamier than not?
I don't, actually.
No?
I think a lot of people have kind of backed off a little bit.
Oh,
so,
why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think, I honestly can't tell you. I know why I do, and I do it because 18-year-olds. But if I'm dealing with an older woman, you know, someone in their 20s or older, then my books are a lot steamier. So to me, it's all character driven, but my books are character driven.
Okay, well that makes sense. So you never really followed any trend per se, or
no, I don't.
No.
I'm not politically correct when it comes to this. I'm correct for my time period. And quite frankly, people need to get over trying to change history.
Yeah.
So take history for what it was.
Yeah.
Don't try to make it politically correct. So I go as far as I can with what people actually did back then.
But what is the one historical area that you avoid, that you leave out of your books? Do you have racisms in there? Do you have Any
Yeah,
people
I've got
of
a whole
color
book.
playing different characters?
I've got a whole book that's based in the Virgin Islands that I wrote when I was down there. And I had to study all the manumission laws for all the different islands because they were owned by different countries. We have, of course, slavery and racism, and depending on what the setting is, because they're from the Caribbean.
Right. Okay.
So it doesn't happen very much in the Worthingtons. I'm not sure. There weren't a lot of people in the aristocracy of mixed race.
Right.
So, and I'm
right.
only in 1824 now, 1824. So we're not in the Victorian era where you have people in the aristocracy really marrying merchants, wealthy merchants or industrialists in a big way. So that may happen later on.
So do you struggle with balancing historical accuracy with modern sensibilities?
No.
Or do you usually lean towards historical accuracy?
I lean towards historical accuracy. I don't even think about modern sensibilities.
Okay.
The period was what the period is,
Right.
and it's not going to change.
Yeah. Do you sugarcoat anything from
No.
back then?
No.
So do I need to be prepared to be like traumatized by the body odor and things like that in your books?
But they don't know it. But you got to understand something. People wouldn't notice it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've lived in Europe off and on all my adult life. Okay. And deodorant wasn't much of a thing until relatively recently. And
Yeah, that's
you
true.
notice it when you first get there, but then you just don't notice it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
that's
so it's
absolutely
not
true.
something.
Yeah.
If someone was wearing really strong perfume, yeah, I would guess so, or perfume you didn't like. But the thing is people didn't really notice. If they had horribly bad breath, you would notice. But the thing is it's not
just
something
used to it. Yeah.
because you're used to it. But yeah, I mean, I've one book where my characters are actually trying to rescue people from a brothel, and the women are and they have opium braziers to keep the women passive. All that's there. And
Right.
I have books where you have mistresses that especially the French mistresses that came over, and some of them were made mistresses of somebody else in France and then sold to somebody else, and their family may be looking for them, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay.
There
That
is-
makes it for a really interesting sort of, there's a lot of depth in your story, a lot of layers.
There is a lot of layers, but I treat everything with a very light hand because my books are actually pretty light and funny.
Yeah.
I had one
Okay.
person said that they were going through a bad family time, and she'd read my books and roll off the couch laughing. And I
Now,
bring the
is
whole.
that the best compliment a reader can give you? What is the best compliment a reader can give you?
That's a really great compliment. I've had so
Yeah.
many good ones. Everybody gets to have lots of kids. I never could. I got one. So I had one woman say, I really love that everyone ends up pregnant because I could never have kids.
Yeah, it's such
So
a
you get-
personal experience for some people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Reading a story, yeah.
It's very, you have very poignant comments. You get things that they love it because it's funny. They're waiting for the kids to grow up because the kids always play a part in the books. You're getting to know them as they're growing up. Like the Worthingtons take in kids that were trained to be pickpockets, and the two youngest girls keep getting lessons from the pickpockets in certain ways.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
So they're when these kids are there, they're attending classes, kind of in-house classes, and
Yeah.
learning trades and that kind of
Yeah.
thing like that, or whatever they're going to be doing. And in the meantime, the youngest two girls, Theo and Mary, are getting lessons in pickpocketing and lockpicking.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I love kids when they are precocious and funny in books. I don't
Yeah.
like the whiny ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
That's really
very
it.
they're all funny. In some ways, I mean, I deal with many times I deal with serious subjects with a very light hand.
Yeah. Okay.
And we always have a lot of humor in the books. So for example, Alice, this is in the groom's list. All of the girls were taught how to defend themselves, and so she likes boxing, and she ends up punching the guy that wanted to marry her but wanted to keep his mistress and that kind of stuff, and she ends up punching him.
Okay.
He's interrupting the hero's proposal, and she said, "Would you?" I think she said something. I'm so tired of you, and she punches him. So,
Oh my God, that's so cathartic. Oh, I feel good just hearing that.
because isn't it what everyone's wanting to do?
Yes, yes. All right, guys. So there's a lot of sex and violence, a lot of secrets, sneaking around, and criminals. You got the whole package right there.
I do.
So
yeah.
So do you have to do much historical research anymore then? After
I
all
still
these
do.
years?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because
Yeah.
so, for example, for the recent book, I needed to know who the the Home Secretary was, which took an amazingly long time. That was kind of difficult to find. No one wanted to tell me what it was in 1824.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to research dresses because they're changing during this time.
Right,
they're gradually
right.
dropping, so we're almost at a natural waist. Sleeves are changing.
Yeah.
Men's clothes are changing. No one's wearing pantaloons very much anymore. They're wearing trousers, still
Right.
wearing breeches at night. So there are different kinds of carriages that are being built. A lot of things that you still have to look at. If you're depending on the area of England you're at, you've got to study which kind of houses they have, what their building materials are.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
because they
that
differ
makes
from
sense.
one part of the country to the other. It's just different wherever you are in England. What's going on? Like one book was written when they were having the mine uprisings, and the government was trying to put them down. So and the government was actually agitating some of it to put them down as an excuse to kill people. No one gets treated with a velvet glove. In fact, I have one book the French won't buy. They bought the whole the whole Marriage Game series, but they won't buy this one book because it takes place around Waterloo.
Oh, I see.
And I
they
have,
don't wanna, and yet they'll let you into their country.
Oh, they don't know who I am. I mean, and plus, they bought the rest of them. I can find them in French grocery stores. So,
So, have you read the very first book you ever published? Since
no, I never read my books again.
really,
Never.
on purpose or just too busy?
I just, I've read them so many times.
Oh, okay. You move on.
I move on, and I'm writing another book.
Right.
So there's never a time when I'm really not writing or planning another book.
Oh, I see. When did you become a USA Today's best-selling author?
I was sitting in Marigot Bay in the Caribbean. I'm trying to think when that was. Probably 2000. It was
was
15 or 16. Yeah.
15.
Oh, wow. So
And I've
only
been on the
two-
list 5 times. So.
Wow. So only 2 years after you published, you got the USA Today's.
It was the Worthingtons because you really
Yeah.
can't do it with just ebooks. And my first contract was ebooks.
Okay.
It was when
So-
it was when all the big publishing companies were just starting their ebook lines, and my agent was not happy, and so she negotiated back to back releases. So my first 4 books, I had 3 books. It was September, November, January, and March. 4 books. The first 4 books came out really fast.
Has your writing changed since then, do you think?
I hope I've gotten better. It's always been tight. I do the first draft, and then I have to go back in, and I have to add scenery, and I have to add more in clothing, and I have to add other things. Sometimes I do just straight dialogue and don't even put dialogue tags or movement in, and then I have to go back through and go, okay, who's saying what? Because it was just coming out, very quickly.
Yeah.
In my book, it's actually the guys have to figure out what the woman wants.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah,
that's the
I
way it
agree.
should be everywhere. Yeah. So it's not obvious, but I think you're a feminist.
You think?
Oh, and good for your husband for supporting you.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
He took a staff job when I first went to law school. He was the one that had to get up with him, get him dressed, get him to school, because I was up and out early in the morning because I was driving an hour or so up to law school every day and then back. And he's very supportive.
If you had to name tropes for your own, relationship with your husband, what would they be?
Oh, God. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before.
Friends to
Trope
lovers,
for our marriage.
and then it becomes enemy to lovers.
The trope for our marriage. He doesn't even know what trope is.
He's just blocking it all out. Secret identity. No, well, military. Military.
Military. I guess.
Friends to lovers? No, you were introduced.
No, I took him
Insta
home
love.
the first night.
Yeah, Insta love.
Yes,
Insta love. Yeah.
These
Marriage
things are
of
falling out.
convenience?
No, We dated
Not
for
marriage of convenience?
almost 2 years, before we got married. I ended up flying down to Panama to get married.
So was it long distance for a bit? For a
Oh,
time?
we didn't see each other for a whole year before we got married. And of
Oh,
course,
wow.
there was no computer. We got married in '83. No computers. We were writing
Yeah.
letters. He was mostly deployed in Central America, and
Yeah.
so they had. I guess I keep imagining a phone booth, but I know, it was a phone booth they put up for the guys to call their families, and his call time was like 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. So I had to unplug the phone and put it in my bedroom so I could hear it when he called and wouldn't have to get out of bed.
See what we had to go through, young people, to date. You have no idea.
So
The only
we sent
thing- yeah.
letters and calls for a year before we got
So how did
married.
it feel to go from letters to bang, you're together 24/7?
Well, we weren't. I was starting my second semester of my master's, and so I flew back 5 days later after we got married. And then he came up. That was before Christmas. We got married 30th of December, and then he flew up in March for about 10 days, 2 weeks, and then flew back down. And then I moved down in May after the semester was over. But then less than a month later, he deployed. So we didn't actually live with...
About 10 days later.
About 10 days later. And so he'd actually lived together until we'd been married for 9 months. So it was when we got on the boat that everyone went, okay, how's this going to work?
Yeah. When you got on the boat, when?
In 2014. And we got married in 83, yeah. And sometimes we didn't even live in the same place. Like we did when we were in Germany. That was fine. We were in England. I left after 2 years and moved back to Germany, and he was there for another year and a half, so he commuted back and forth. And then he got a job in Southern Virginia, and I had the guy across the street called because I had a black contractor working on the house, and he had a gun.
And what year was it again?
This was in 2004 through 6.
Really?
So
that's not even that long ago.
I kind of went back to Germany. I kept an apartment there because I was telecommuting. Yeah. And so, yeah, he chased me around my house one time. And so I said, that's it. I'm out of here. Because he was gone. My husband was gone all the time. And so then we visited friends in the Virgin Islands, and I bought a house down there. And I was commuting from the Virgin Islands to Germany about 3 or 4 times a year with a Great Dane and a cat. Because why do anything the easy way?
Exactly. Why not carry around a horse with you? How did you even get it onto your flight?
Oh, Delta had a great pet program. And so we'd go from St. Thomas to Atlanta. There was a company there that would pick her up, take care of her during the night, get her back for the plane to Germany the next morning.
Okay. So why did you end up in Germany again?
We were both stationed over there.
Oh, okay. You were stationed there. All right. So that's the secret to a successful marriage, is just not seeing each other for a very long time. Yeah. And then by the time you get on the sailboat, you're not tired of each other yet.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So there you go, people. My gift to you. Keep things
moving.
Yeah,
I think you got every 20 years or so, you got to change up your life.
Or in your case, every other week, I think.
Here? Well, yeah.
Well, you can handle it.
One of the things I love about being on the boat is I just carry my home with me.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about going through airports. I don't have to worry about packing and repacking. You know, I just have everything here. I've got all my stuff that I need.
On the boat, who's in charge? You or your husband, or is it like equal?
We co-captain.
Yeah. Do I need to ask him for the accurate answer?
We
captain my ass.
No, he's right here. He's not going to argue. I mean, we work together on stuff. I'm pretty much in charge of all the provisioning. If we're doing any passages, I'm in charge of the meal planning, provisioning, making sure we have everything we need. He helps, suck everything down with the food saver, and we freeze stuff. And I was in charge of making sure we had the portable Dometic 12 volt to have, and we went round and round last year about refrigeration, because I said we don't need 2 refrigerators now because we're close to, groceries most of the time. We're not like 2 weeks on the ocean. And so we have 2 refrigerators, one for, like cheeses and salamis and beer and wine and all that kind of stuff, and the other one for more regular food. I'm pretty much in charge of where we're going to go, unless Tom wants to go someplace else too. And we're both looking at anchorages. If
you had to reduce weight, and you had to throw out one of the fridges, which one are you throwing out? The regular food or the cheeses and wine?
The regular food.
Yeah, you're going to keep the cheese and wine, right?
Well, I'll put my salad in with the cheese and wine.
Yeah, that's my kind of woman. Right answer. So have you always traditionally published, or have you self-published as well?
No, I only self-publish with box sets. I am not at all interested in self-publishing.
Yeah.
I don't like any part of the process. Okay, I don't do editing. I mean, my covers, if you look at my covers to the Trevors, they're all the same. The only difference is books 1 through 4, books 5 and 6.
They're beautiful covers.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if you look at my covers, my traditionally published book covers, you can't beat them.
They're beautiful.
I had John Paul covers until he was unable to work. If I were to take my books, get my rights back, which I could on some of the books, except that then I would have to do everything myself. And why do I want to do that?
Yeah. Because I hear so many traditionally published authors say, oh, they do self-publishing as well. And there are pros and cons to both. But I can't imagine there being cons other than maybe reduced royalty, but you reach more readers, right? So
I make significantly more than the average traditionally published author does, or the average independent author does.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A lot
I
of
can see
traditional
that. Yeah.
pub authors went to publish independently because they weren't making as much money, and now they make more. Okay, because
Right.
they're selling the same amount of books, but they're getting all the money themselves.
Right.
All right. So, but and they're making about what I'm making now. So give or take a couple thousand. So it's it really is sort of what you're earning,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think. And I don't
Yeah.
have
Depends
a
on the
financial
person.
reason to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot who I was talking to. Talking to a superstar, people. Okay. So, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind?
And I'm having way too much fun
Soldier.
being an author. I think
Yeah.
helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I think helping people. And I obviously help people being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I help people being an author.
Yeah. Do you get fan mails?
I
Telling
get
you
some
about the
through,
impact?
through
Yeah.
the website.
Yeah.
The website, yeah. And I answer as much of it as I can. But I also have a Worthington's Facebook group which I interact with.
Oh, do you? Okay. I
Yeah.
gotta find you on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so that we get they get excerpts, and they get the covers first, and we just
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
name for the next book, so they got that first.
Mm-hmm.
And we run during COVID. We ran the 12 Days of Christmas party, where every day for 12 days we had giveaways.
Yeah, do you find that your publishers expect you to promote your books more and more on social media?
No, I probably am doing it less because they do a lot themselves. They're doing
Yeah.
a Barnes and Noble thing now. They did something
Yeah.
with Audible. So
Yeah.
when
And
I
you're
was
very
at,
well established, so
yeah,
they don't really.
and I do, and I have a virtual assistant, and she gets everything out there. So when I
Okay.
go places, I'm out there, selling my books, carrying around
Yeah,
book
yeah.
cards, having them out. I give a class for RWA or for any writers group called How to Fake Being an Extrovert,
Oh, okay.
because I'm an introvert,
Yeah.
but I've
yeah.
had a lot
yeah.
of practice faking being an extrovert. I used to teach university, and I was a trial lawyer, so yeah.
I see. So if you could give one freebie of a tip from that class, what would it be?
Oh, from that class.
Yeah.
I would say you just have to get out there and make yourself do it. So,
Yeah.
so for example, I have trouble talking to crowds. Okay, but you have to practice what you're going to have to say beforehand, and then you go out and you do it and you say it. If you're scared of seeing people one on one, take your book cards.
Yeah.
Or and be in an elevator and say, oh, what do you read? Especially with readers, and hand your book cards out. I hand my book cards out everywhere, on airplanes and restaurants, everywhere. I think for regular life advice,
Yeah.
I had one of my grandfathers tell me once, he said, wish in one hand and spit in the other and see which one gets full faster. And that's kind of a guiding principle, which is, because if you want something, go after it. When I was looking for agents, I got on Query Tracker, and I had a list of, you can filter out the list, right? Every agent that reps historical romance that accepts, because I was living in the Virgin Islands, accepts manuscripts via email, which wasn't everybody back then.
Yeah.
And so I queried. I thought it was like 40 or something. I think it was maybe 20. I don't know, but it felt like 40. And I got rejected on the first book all around, and on the second book, I got my first request for a full. I got 2 requests for a full, and I got an agent. So,
Wow.
but I just did a scattershot approach. And some people will query 5 agents and wait to get query things back. I didn't do that. I just went full bore ahead. You're not allowed to query anything until you finish the damn book.
Do the first step first. Yeah.
Do the first step first. Yeah. Or I'll tell people, when you join a critique group, don't join a critique group when you're first writing the book. You'll never get the book finished. Write the book and then put up chapters. You're going to get a lot of stuff back, and some of it you'll accept and some of it you won't. You've got to be true to your voice in your book. Because this isn't their voice in their book. It's yours.
Okay, well, thank you for that advice. I'm taking mental notes. I'm like, damn it, I got to fix my book now.
Don't write to the market. So some people can write contemporary and historical. I can't, and I know it, and I'm not even going to try. I quite frankly don't know anything at all about contemporary life. Grace Burrows keeps saying, Ella, when are you going to write a contemporary? Never. Never.
I think you'd be so much fun as a contemporary voice, though.
I don't have a contemporary voice. That's my problem. I had somebody ask me once, years ago, when I was still a lawyer, she said, do you speak like that all the time? And I said, yes. How am I supposed to speak?
So So it's not an option for you even to write
No.
contemporary. Yeah.
I don't know anything about contemporary life.
Yeah.
I just this year found
Mhm.
out that there was a person by the name of Taylor Swift.
Hmm.
My 14-year-old granddaughter told me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you have been living under a rock for a long time, so
It's like my mother-in-law used to give me readers in historical romance. So
yeah.
I didn't even, I knew about Stephanie Lawrence. I'd never heard of
Mhm.
Julia Quinn. I'd never heard of Kathy Maxwell. I'd never heard of Jo Beverly. I'd never heard of Mary Jo Putley until I started writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd never heard of them.
Yeah. I saw a
So-
picture of you and Julia Quinn together.
When you're living,
yeah.
she helped me on my first paperback book release. I met her at a conference, and when you're living in Europe and you really don't have bookstores to go to,
Mhm.
and I'm very picky about my books. I like a lot of historical
Mm-hmm.
accuracy because that's what I do, and
Mhm.
I will literally never read an author again if I find something that's really beyond the pale. I just won't.
Hmm. Okay.
Because-
Give me an example of Beyond the Pale.
Oh, having a lawyer tell the client he can't keep his rank because his parents weren't married like everyone thought they were when he was born. Because number
Mhm.
one, it's his lawyer. He works for whatever, ever place that is. He can't say
Mhm.
anything to anybody.
Mm.
Okay, it's going back to the beginning of lawyering. That's an ethical breach. You can't do it.
I see. Okay.
So if you do something like that, or if you have a heroine, a brother goes away, or a guardian goes away and leaves their best friend in charge of the heroine, and they're riding in a closed coach together,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that she's
Without a
ruined. At that
chaperone?
point, they're getting married, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you get caught kissing somebody, you're getting married.
Yeah.
If you
Yes.
fall into somebody and he catches you and embraces you, you're getting married.
Mhm.
And people see
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite tropes, actually, is the accidental
Oh,
betrayal.
the compromise. Yeah.
Yeah, the one I'm writing now, Theo has known Chandos, who's a duke, and she thinks of him as one of her older brother's friends.
Mhm.
Okay, and so she actually says in Charlie's book, the one that's coming out in December, that dancing with him was like dancing with my brother. And you've got Charlotte's husband says, "Oh God, please don't say that to him. We'll never hear the end of it."
Yeah. That's
And so-
universal.
and
Timeless.
he ends up falling in love with her, Chandros
Mhm.
does, and he's trying to figure out a way to get her to notice him other than just her
Mhm.
brother's friend. So this one mean girl, and you've had him for centuries, right? Mean
Right.
girls trips her, thinking she's going to fall on the ground, and he catches her, and people are
Ooh.
around. So he's happy. He thinks, finally, I get to get married. And she pats him on his arm and says, "Don't worry, I'll figure out a way out of this." And twists the knife.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
he just, and the readers, of course, know what's going on.
Mhm.
And so it's a funny scene
Yeah.
if you're a
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. I love how your face brightens up as if you're talking about your grandchildren when you talk about your characters, and you're just so invested in them. And yeah, that joy in your face is just
It's a lot. It's the
beautiful.
best job I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. When they're
Yeah.
not driving me
Yeah.
crazy.
when the characters are not going bonkers on you.
I have, if you
Or-
ever read Enticing Miss Eugenie Verret, I have the hero is an absolute, honest to God, everyone wants to hit him. And his best friend does.
And yet it came out of your head. So
Characters.
they
are
do what they do. Yeah,
They do what they do.
So, I mean, you have lived about 10 different lives so far. You
Mhm.
have won the accolade of being the USA Today's bestselling author. You're sailing around the world with the love of your life. What's in store for you in the next chapter?
I don't know. I'm going to be 71 this year.
Oh, wow. Okay, you look fantastic, and you have more energy than a lot of people I know. So,
Thank you. And my son says I have more energy than he'll ever
yeah.
have. I asked well, actually, he's the same thing one of my friends said when I asked their kids if they wanted to go for a walk. He said, "She will walk you into the ground."
Yeah. Oh, my
But
goodness.
yeah, so I don't know. I think we're sailing the Med for the foreseeable future.
Mhm.
Well, some people just kind of dash in, dash around, and go back to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We want to kind of take it slow. We spent a lot of time in this part of France from land, and we want to see it from
Mhm.
water. Then I've
Mhm.
never been to Sicily or Sicilia. I've never been to the Greek islands. My husband has been to Greece, but I haven't. So we spent
Mhm.
it there. Then we'll kind of do some things in the Adriatic, probably go over to Turkey, maybe Croatia.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Depending on how things are going. Right now, they're kind of bribery's pretty hot over there, so we'll see.
Oh, really?
And then
Okay.
eventually we may go back over to the Caribbean.
You have a
Other than
dog on board?
we have a Great Dane and we have a cat.
Oh, you still have them on board.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is funny, but it
Yeah,
just
but she's a marina
funny.
girl. She likes being able. Her favorite thing is to be petted by total strangers.
So not a guard dog whatsoever.
Oh, she will.
Oh, she will.
She will. Yeah. I mean,
Uh-huh.
when Tom was up with doing medical tests, and I was in Fréjus for almost 2 weeks, she was, paying good attention. She'd bark at someone if they got too near the boat. The cat was out
Okay.
there also making sure that everything was fine.
Mhm.
I was not allowed to go anywhere by myself.
Right,
The cat would make
right.
sure she put me to bed and then she'd go out.
Really?
She has a tracker
Oh,
on her, so I
that's
don't care.
so
Yeah.
sweet. That's
And then
so sweet.
she came in and wait until I woke up.
Somebody should write a life story about you two.
Not me.
Yes, it's all you've said. That's why. Yeah. Well, Julia Quinn, if you're watching this, then write a memoir. Yeah, memoir for Ella Quinn.
I think it takes a different person to write a memoir. So
Yeah, I tried to write my own memoir, and I only got 2 lines. I couldn't engage myself because it was too boring. I've already lived it. I didn't feel like writing
Yeah.
about it. So yeah,
that's how I feel. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, move on.
got the T-shirt. What would you like people to say about you after you're gone?
That she was a good person and she wrote great stories.
That was so much fun, Ella. I mean, you made me laugh so much, and I think
Oh, good.
I sprained my jaws because they were dropping so much. You have such an amazing life story, and I bet you would make a really fun dinner guest. Thank you again for joining me and taking time out of your busy schedule. And it was such a hoot. I learned a lot, and I'm going to enjoy watching your selling experience. And I'm going to heckle you in your readers group, the Worthington. Is it
The Worthingtons,
Yeah, the Worthingtons. Join me in Ella's group, the Worthingtons, on Facebook.
Mhm.
Buy the Groom's list, guys. You can see how much fun she is to talk to. So keep in touch with her. Follow her on Instagram, and I'll leave all her contacts in the whatever goes below the YouTube. Yeah, check her out. She has so many life experiences and such a colorful personality that comes through her books. You're not going to be disappointed, right? Look at the passion. Get the passion in her face. You're going to feel things from the gut. All right, thank you everyone for joining me. And
Thank you.
keep in touch. And thank you so much. It was an honor.
Bye.